Imagine a sound so loud, it doesn't just damage your hearing, it vibrates your internal organs. The ground isn't just shaking, it is liquefying beneath your feet. It is February 1940. You are a Finnish soldier in the Summa Sector of the Karelian Isthmus. The world has turned into a monochrome nightmare of black mud and white snow. For the last 10 days, the Soviet artillery has not stopped, not for an hour, not for a minute. Historians call this the Drumfire. The Red Army is firing 300,000 shells every 24 hours into a stretch of forest less than 2 kilometers wide. The ancient pine forests of Karelia have been reduced to splintered toothpicks. The snow has been blasted away, revealing the frozen, scarred earth beneath. Stalin has lost patience. He has given the final order. The line must break. Facing this storm of steel are men who haven't slept in a week. Their faces are black with soot, their eyes sunken from exhaustion. Their concrete bunkers are cracked, exposing the rebar like broken bones. Their ammunition is critically low. But when the artillery finally stops and the ringing silence falls over the freezing air, these men do not run. They grab their rifles and pull the bolts back because they know what is coming next. The tanks. This was the Mannerheim Line, the wall that was supposed to fall in 12 days, but held for 105. Welcome to White Front Records. Today, we uncover the truth behind the most famous defensive line of the Winter War. Soviet propaganda described the Mannerheim Line as a marvel of modern engineering, equal to the famous French Maginot Line. Foreign Minister Molotov told the world that the Finns were hiding behind a fortress of reinforced concrete and steel. They claimed it had roofed trenches, heated underground cities, and automatic defense systems. They needed this lie. They needed to explain to the world, and to their own people, why the massive Red Army, the largest military force on Earth, was being stopped cold by a tiny nation of farmers and lumberjacks. The reality was far more terrifying. The Mannerheim Line wasn't a solid wall. It was a chain of disconnected resistance nodes built across the Karelian Isthmus. Most of the bunkers were nothing more than wooden dugouts buried under layers of earth and logs. They were damp, freezing holes where men slept in shifts, huddled together for warmth, while the ceiling shook violently enough to spill their coffee. Only a handful of bunkers were made of concrete, and many of those were built in the 1920s, too old and too brittle to withstand modern heavy artillery. In the critical Summa Sector, the defense relied on two key strongpoints: Bunker SJ5, known as the $1 Million Bunker, and Bunker SJ4, the Poppius Bunker. These two coordinates became the most bombed places on planet Earth. Inside, the conditions were beyond human endurance. During the heaviest bombardments, the oxygen levels inside the bunkers dropped so low that lanterns wouldn't stay lit. Men suffocated in the dark, gasping for air that tasted of sulfur. The concussion of the shells hitting the roof was enough to kill a man via internal hemorrhage without a piece of shrapnel ever touching him. But artillery alone couldn't take ground. Tanks could. The Soviets sent waves of T-28 medium tanks to crush the barbed wire and bury the defenders alive in their foxholes. The Finns had almost no anti-tank guns. In the early days of the war, they watched helplessly as steel monsters rolled right over their trenches, impervious to machine gun fire. But sheer terror quickly turned into desperate invention.
They realized the tanks were blind. Finnish soldiers, blending into the snow with white bedsheet capes, would wait in frozen silence for the tanks to pass. Then they would stand up, sprint behind the steel beast, and jam a heavy spruce log into its bogie wheels. Once the tank was immobilized, they used the weapon that became the symbol of the war, the Molotov cocktail. A simple glass bottle filled with a mixture of gasoline, tar, and potassium chlorate, smashed into the engine deck. When bottles weren't enough, they used kasapanos, satchel charges, heavy bundles of TNT with a short fuse. To use one, a soldier had to have nerves of steel, running up to the tank and throwing the heavy pack onto the rear deck before diving for cover. One by one, the Soviet steel snake was set on fire. Courage can stop a tank, but it cannot stop a tide. By mid-February 1940, the Red Army changed tactics. Instead of mindless human wave charges, they coordinated their attacks. artillery, tanks, and infantry moved as one seamless machine. The sheer weight of numbers began to crack the line. The defenders were simply too few and too tired. On February 11th, at the $1 Million Bunker, a Soviet demolition team finally managed to place 2,000 kilograms of explosives directly on the roof. The massive explosion cracked the bunker open like an egg. The lock was broken. The line was breached. The Finnish army retreated, but they did not rout. They fell back to the intermediate line and then the rear line, making the Soviets pay for every single meter of snow with blood. The Mannerheim Line was lost, but its purpose was fulfilled. It had bought Finland the one thing it needed most: time. It proved that a fortification is not made of concrete and steel, but of the stubbornness of the hearts inside it. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the frozen hell of 1939, subscribe to White Front Records. The war is not over yet.